Hey friends, before we start today's story, make sure you hit that subscribe button for celeb info updates and turn on notifications so you never miss our awesome videos about famous people and their incredible lives. On a foggy morning in the northwest part of Washington, D.C., there's a beautiful old house from the 1920s sitting behind fancy iron gates. Walk inside and you'll see shiny stone counters in the kitchen and tons of books on the shelves. This house belongs to Laura Ingraham, a famous TV host who manages to balance her big job on television with taking her kids to school and finding time to think quietly. Her home feels organized, classy, and surprisingly cozy. In this story, we're going to explore her house in Washington, her bigger place in Virginia, and what her life looks like when the cameras stop rolling. But before we get to all that, let's go back in time and see how she built the career that made all of this possible. Laura was born back in 1963 in a town called Glastonbury in Connecticut. She was the baby of the family, and her parents weren't rich. Her dad, James, was in charge of the car wash in their town. Her mom, Anne Caroline, worked as a waitress to help pay the bills. Laura went to Glastonbury High School and finished in 1981. Even back then, people knew her as someone who really wanted to win, whether she was playing tennis for the school team or writing articles for the student newspaper. 4 years later, in 1985, she graduated from Dartmouth College with a degree in English, but what really mattered was that she made quite a name for herself there. She became the boss of a newspaper called the Conservative Dartmouth Review. This is where she developed the bold and sometimes harsh style that you can see in her TV shows today. When Laura was running that newspaper, it became famous all across the country because it wrote really tough articles about what was happening on campus. She even went undercover to report stories, which led to people suing the newspaper and students protesting. Some people thought she was amazing, while others weren't happy with her at all. But one thing was for sure, when she left Dartmouth, everyone knew who Laura Ingraham was among student journalists. Instead of jumping straight into TV work, Laura headed to Washington. In the late 1980s, she got a job working for President Reagan's team as someone who wrote speeches for the office that handled policies inside the country. Working there taught her how the right words can change what the government does and how saying things the right way can change what people think. These were skills that would help her big time when she started working on TV and radio. She also spent some time working as an editor at a magazine called The Prospect. There, she kept working on her special way of mixing talks about culture with conservative political ideas. Laura wanted to have even better qualifications, so she went to law school at the University of Virginia and got her law degree in 1991. After that, she worked for a judge named Ralph Winter, who worked at an important appeals court called the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. Then she worked for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, which is considered one of the best jobs a young lawyer can get in America. Not many people who end up hosting TV shows can say they once wrote important notes for the highest court in the country. But Laura's training in law gave her a really careful and exact way of thinking that you can still see when she asks questions on her show. After working for judges, Laura joined a big law firm in New York that worked with clients from around the world. She worked on cases involving white-collar crimes and appeals, but working in courtrooms wasn't exciting enough for her because she really loved debating and talking about important topics in public. By the middle of the 1990s, she started showing up on TV as someone who shared her opinions. First, she appeared on a show called Watch It on MSNBC in 1996. Then she became someone who regularly appeared on CBS. In 2001, she started her own radio show called The Laura Ingraham Show. This show was played on radio stations all across America and kept going until 2018. At one point, it was the 5th most popular talk radio show in the whole United States, which is really impressive because there were so many radio shows trying to get listeners. Fox News hired her to appear on their shows in 2008. By 2017, they gave her own primetime show called The Ingraham Angle. On this show, she talks about immigration, culture, and what's happening with other countries, and she does tough interviews with guests. The show quickly became super popular in its 10 p.m. time slot and became the 3rd most watched show on cable news with more than 3 million people watching every night. Laura also wrote several books that became bestsellers, including ones called The Hillary Trap and Shut Up and Sing. These books made her an even bigger name in the conservative movement. Her journey from being a small-town tennis player and controversial college newspaper editor to working for the Supreme Court, becoming a radio superstar, and hosting a primetime show on Fox News shows a really American story of someone who was ambitious and kept changing and improving herself. People have described her as someone who went from being a law clerk to becoming a lightning rod on primetime TV. This description captures both how smart and serious she is and also how controversial she can be. Even though her show's ratings kept getting better and her schedule filled up with appearances and speeches, Laura still created a surprisingly normal home base in the nation's capital. It's a classic house where she raises her kids, follows a strict daily routine, and finds a break from being in the spotlight every night. Just a few blocks away from a big park called Rock Creek Park in Northwest Washington, Laura Ingraham's main home kind of blends in with the neighborhood. From the street, it looks like a nice but not too showy townhouse from 1922 in the colonial style. The red brick front has ivy growing on it and big old trees around it. She bought it and fixed it up for about $1.3 million. The house isn't like those huge marble mansions that scream, "Look at me." Instead, it shows discipline and that she plans to stay there for a long time. It fits perfectly with someone whose TV personality is all about being organized and sticking to her beliefs. Walk through the front door and the first thing you'll notice is how bright everything is. Almost 4,600 square feet of space opens up after you pass the entry area. You start in a big entrance hall that has beautiful sparkling chandeliers hanging from really high ceilings. The original wood floors go throughout the whole house and they're polished until they shine with a warm glow. Clean white trim frames all the doorways and windows. The whole feeling is very Washington, D.C., serious but not dark and gloomy, fancy without trying too hard to show off. The living room has that same feeling. There's a fireplace that burns real wood right in the middle of the room. On both sides of the fireplace, there are built-in shelves filled with books and family photos. The sunroom has windows that wrap around and let in tons of natural light, which is pretty rare in the city's older houses. It's easy to picture Laura sitting at a desk in the corner writing what she's going to say on her show that night while her kids are nearby doing their homework. On one side of the house, there's a formal dining room that can seat 10 people under a special chandelier. This is perfect for Sunday family dinners or dinner parties where people talk about politics and policies. Right next to it is the kitchen, which has shiny granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and cabinets that make everything easy to store. It's bright and not too big, designed for a working mom who still enjoys cooking but doesn't have time for a huge fancy cooking space. Go upstairs and you'll find 4 bedrooms, 3 full bathrooms, and 2 half bathrooms. The main bedroom suite keeps the simple colonial style but has updated fixtures, big closets, and windows that let you see the tops of the trees in the Woodley Park neighborhood. Down the hall, there's a library that also works as a sunny family room with comfortable deep chairs and shelves from floor to ceiling. It's a quiet place to escape from all the noise of cable news. Even the practical stuff shows how disciplined Laura is. There's a garage attached to the house that fits 2 cars, which is really rare in the city and super convenient. There's also extra parking off the street, which makes it possible to have people over without everyone driving around in circles looking for parking spots. The yard has a sprinkler system to keep everything watered, and there are mature trees and a carefully taken care of white flower garden that blooms when summer comes. The colors in the garden match the simple color scheme inside the house. There's no crazy infinity pool or helicopter landing pad here. Instead, there's a private little peaceful spot where a famous TV host can relax after doing her nightly show. But when she wants even more room for her children and guests to spread out, she drives across the river into McLean, Virginia. There, a bigger property gives the same organized lifestyle just a little more breathing space. A quick drive across the Potomac River from her Washington townhouse takes Laura Ingraham to a completely different kind of place. In 2014, she quietly bought a brick and stone estate in McLean, Virginia for about $1.6 million. It sits on 2.1 acres of landscape property and is now worth around $4 million. It's the kind of suburban hideaway that lets a high-profile TV anchor disappear and have privacy without leaving the Washington, D.C. area. While her D.C. home whispers about colonial discipline, this one offers space, light, and a gentler vibe. The outside of the house mixes classic Chicago-style brick with cream-colored stone accents and fancy keystone details above the tall windows. The roof has gables and dormers that break up the roofline, while arched entryways and wrought iron balconies hint at timeless luxury without going overboard and looking tacky. A wide circular driveway loops around to a garage that looks like an old-fashioned carriage house. Mature trees frame everything and block out street noise, making the property feel more like a country getaway than a house where someone commutes to work. Inside, almost 7,900 square feet spread out across 3 levels. The main floor has a grand entrance hall that opens up to formal living and dining rooms. Both rooms have hardwood floors and thick crown molding along the ceilings. A sunroom on this floor can easily be changed into a main floor bedroom or office. It's a flexible space for a working mom who has to juggle preparing for her show with family life. High ceilings and tall windows flood all the rooms with daylight, which softens the traditional architecture and makes everything feel surprisingly airy and open. Upstairs, there are 6 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms, which gives everyone privacy and room to breathe. The main bedroom suite has a fireplace, a bathroom with marble tiles, and French doors that open onto a private balcony looking out over the back lawn. The other bedrooms also have balconies or Juliet windows, continuing the mix of classic design and open views. There's enough space for children, guests who stay overnight, or even visits from extended family. The hallways are wide enough that a TV crew could film there if she ever wanted to shoot a segment of her show at home. The lower level has a walkout to the grounds and is designed for casual hanging out. It includes a recreation lounge, a media area, and storage space that could easily become a gym or studio. French doors open to the terrace where stone steps lead down to a beautifully landscaped backyard that's perfect for entertaining. Even though there's no pool right now, the lawn is big enough to add one if she wanted. The terrace is already set up for outdoor dining and summer parties, like a literal extension of the kitchen and family rooms upstairs. Getting to work from this neighborhood is surprisingly easy. The Tysons Metro Station and downtown McLean are just minutes away, and Reagan National Airport is a straight shot down the George Washington Parkway. For someone who has to split her time between being on TV and picking kids up from school, it's a conservative anchor's dream commute. Think of it as Georgetown elegance combined with Virginia breathing room. It's the opposite of her intense on-air personality, a quiet, sprawling home where discipline meets comfort, and a place to recharge before stepping back into prime time. But big homes and larger-than-life spaces are only possible when the money behind them is equally big. Laura Ingraham has spent more than 20 years turning her law training and super sharp media instincts into one of the most impressive financial profiles in conservative broadcasting. Her net worth is estimated at $40 million. It's a fortune she built not through flashy advertising deals, but through never giving up and working really hard. The main part of that fortune is her contract with Fox News. When it was renewed in 2020, reports said it pays her about $15 million per year. That puts her among the highest-paid female anchors in the network's history. This isn't just a salary, it's proof of her continued ratings power and her ability to keep viewers watching during one of cable TV's most competitive time slots. For Fox, Laura isn't just someone who shares opinions. She's a primetime franchise that makes them a lot of money. Before Fox, she had already built up a significant income from radio. For almost 20 years, The Laura Ingraham Show was played on radio stations all across the country. At its peak, it brought in $1 to $2 million annually in hosting fees and syndication deals. For many Americans, hearing her voice during their drive home was as familiar as hearing their local traffic report, and advertisers paid good money for that. Her book publishing record adds another layer to her money-making portfolio. Over the years, Laura has written multiple books that made it onto the New York Times bestseller list. These books tackled everything from politics to cultural commentary. While the publishing world rarely delivers the kind of money that television does, the royalties, estimated somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million total, cemented her reputation as more than just a broadcaster. She's a media brand that sells across different formats. Then there are the speaking events. Laura can charge anywhere from $35,000 to $100,000 per appearance, depending on where she's speaking and who the audience is, with an average of 5 to 10 events each year. These speaking fees can bring in another $500,000 in a good year. From college campuses to political summits, each event reinforces both her public profile and her bank account. Perhaps the most business-minded move of her career was LifeZet, the conservative news and lifestyle website she co-founded in 2015. When it was eventually sold in 2018 to a Canadian-based company called Chorus Group, it didn't make headlines in the billions. But people in the industry estimate she made between $500,000 and $1 million from the deal, plus a share of ongoing benefits. More importantly, it proved that Laura wasn't just a face on television. She could build, grow, and sell a digital platform in a crowded marketplace. But for all the paychecks and business deals, there's another part of her financial story. Laura Ingraham has long put a surprising amount of her wealth into causes that are close to her heart, particularly programs related to adoption and faith-based giving. And to understand that side of her money story, you have to look beyond just the numbers and into her charitable commitments. Long before she was writing big checks to nonprofits, she became a single mother through international adoption. First, she traveled to Guatemala and later to Russia to bring home 3 children. She has often said that the experience changed her sense of purpose and daily discipline. It grounded her commentary in the very real challenges faced by families dealing with bureaucracy, poverty, and loss. That choice alone set her apart from many of her media colleagues. Adoption isn't something you do to save money on taxes. It's a commitment that lasts your whole life. Her charity work extends outward from that personal foundation. Laura donates 100% of the monthly money from her Freedom Matters merchandise store to charities instead of keeping the revenue as extra income for herself. Those checks have gone to a rotating list of organizations, from local youth programs to national disaster relief, showing that her brand can be a pipeline for good rather than just a billboard. Education has always been a priority for her. Through her work with the Horatio Alger Society, Laura helps fund scholarships for low-income students who have overcome really hard times. These are exactly the kind of young people she used to champion back in her Dartmouth Review days. She has also directed whole months of proceeds from her show and merchandise to the Little Sisters of the Poor's Washington, D.C. branch. This is a Catholic organization that provides housing and care for elderly poor people. Her giving has a distinctly faith-based flavor. She regularly highlights Samaritan's Purse disaster relief campaigns on her platforms and has personally contributed money to St. Dominic Church youth programs near her home. These efforts blend her Catholic identity with her media reach, using both attention and dollars to help. Long before social media challenges became a thing, Laura participated in the Imus Ranch Foundation's pediatric cancer support events. She helped raise funds at Code Red rally gatherings in the early 2000s to benefit pediatric cancer research. These weren't fancy galas in Manhattan. They were boots-on-the-ground fundraisers where she lent her name and voice to bring in donors. What comes out of all this is a picture of charity as something lived rather than just announced in press releases. Laura rarely issues formal announcements or does photo ops when she gives money. Instead, she models the kind of private responsibility and community support she talks about on air. Adopting children, sending merchandising profits to charity, paying for scholarships, and amplifying faith-based charities through her massive audience. Behind the studio lights and giving campaigns is a disciplined single mom whose life of quiet giving mirrors the values she preaches. She has never gotten married despite decades of high-profile speculation about rumored relationships with political insiders and media figures. Instead, she has built her household on her own terms, centering it on her Catholic faith and 3 adopted children. Laura converted from Baptist to Roman Catholic as a young adult and remains someone who actively goes to church. She often credits Catholic social teaching with shaping her views on family, charity, and public service, and she raises her children within that tradition. She speaks both Spanish and Russian fluently, and she has used those skills not just on air, but at home. She weaves her children's birth languages into daily life, making her Washington townhouse a multicultural household hidden behind colonial brick walls. Her personal story also includes a fight with serious illness. In 2005, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. This was a huge blow that came just 6 years after losing her mother to lung cancer. She went through chemotherapy early on, lost her hair, and continued hosting her radio program while going through treatment. Laura later called the experience a wake-up call that reinforced her reliance on prayer, fitness, and strict scheduling to balance recovery with being a parent and working. That discipline is still obvious in how she organizes her days, with school drop-offs and homework help on one end and primetime cable debates on the other. Yet the same woman who quietly funds scholarships and spends mornings at Mass is also one of the most divisive voices in American media. Her career has been marked by a string of controversies. There were early Dartmouth Review articles that mocked gay students. There was her infamous "shut up and dribble" comment to basketball star LeBron James. There was on-air criticism of Parkland shooting survivor David Hogg that sparked an advertiser boycott. And there have been more recent uproars over tweets about India and visa policy. Supporters see her as a fearless person taking on elite narratives and saying what others won't say. Critics call her words inflammatory and damaging. And as our tour of Laura Ingraham's world closes, we step back from the polished studios and quiet hallways of her homes to see the fuller picture. She's a disciplined single mother, a Catholic convert, and a polarizing primetime voice who has built a life as structured as her on-air personality is combative. If you've enjoyed discovering the hidden corners of her Washington townhouse and Virginia retreat, thank you for traveling with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell on celeb info updates so you won't miss the next journey inside the homes and lives of America's most talked about figures.